I wanted to share a very strange story that happened to my family and me. It took place in Aguascalientes, near the Alameda, in the first house where we lived. A river ran nearby, and the area was full of trees. According to my grandfather, people who committed terrible crimes at the beginning of the last century were hanged from those trees. Since we were little girls, my sister and I remember experiencing very strange things. In the house, we were frightened in inexplicable ways. The furniture and some decorations would creak and break suddenly, as if someone had launched a firecracker inside the house. Even our little dog would go flying, as if something invisible lifted her and tossed her into the air. The poor thing always ran to hide under some furniture. One unexplained situation I want to tell you about happened in the bathroom. Every day, before leaving the house to go to school, we would securely close the doors and windows, as my mom had a business in a nearby town and the house was left alone all day. After school, my dad would pick us up and we would go to my mom's shop. When night fell, we returned home. But whenever we went to the bathroom, we always found it dirty, with black excrement, as if someone had used it and not flushed. At first, we didn't give it much importance, but over time it became a constant issue. My dad, very annoyed, would scold my sister and me, saying we were dirty for not flushing the toilet. Obviously, it wasn't us. The situation repeated so many times that one day my mom, tired of my dad getting angry with us, said, instead of scolding the girls, "Check that the bathroom is clean before you leave the house." So my dad did. And yes, the bathroom was spotless when we left. But at night, when we returned, my mom asked him to check it again, and to her surprise, the bathroom was dirty once more. My parents checked the doors and windows, but everything was securely locked. There was no explanation for how it happened. Days passed till one night, at 4 a.m, my dad couldn't sleep. His room was across from the bathroom door, and something caught his attention. Something was moving. When he looked outside, he saw a half-naked man, as he describes him, with a towel tied around his waist and curly hair. The man entered the bathroom, but the most terrifying part was that he didn't open the door. He simply passed through it like an entity. My dad, astonished and scared, woke my mom and said, "I know who is dirtying the bathroom." My mom, surprised, didn't know whether to believe him or think he had just had a nightmare. My dad had always been very skeptical, but from that day on, he began to believe in inexplicable things. Months later, someone came to cleanse the house with candles and crystals because, from then on, many truly strange and paranormal things started to happen. Good evening to the entire community. It is a pleasure for me to once again share with you some of the most terrifying and impactful stories that have been sent to us. Today, we move to a military school that seems to hide many entities and tales, some of which are hard to believe. Of course, that's how ghost stories are. Remember, we all believe only as far as our experiences allow us. It's difficult to believe in something we haven't yet experienced, in what seems to be outside our reality. However, that's how it all starts, and many end up being protagonists of this channel. So be careful and let yourself be carried away by the following stories, but do so with caution. During my time as a cadet at the heroic military college in the south of Mexico City, I experienced some paranormal events. Like many military stories, each unit seems to have its supernatural side. I want to share some stories that didn't just remain tales among cadets, but that I experienced personally. Before becoming a cadet, I completed my military service in a unit whose name and location I prefer not to mention. During that time, there were 2 sergeants who assigned us daily activities, including the review of military values. I remember they used to tell us that there are many inexplicable things in the world, and that in the army, you experience things that seem otherworldly. Even skeptics end up believing because you experience it firsthand. After their warnings, they would share their own paranormal experiences, both during operations and within the regiment. Until that moment, I was always skeptical about the paranormal. Although close people had shared their experiences with me, I never fully believed them. They seemed exaggerated or coincidental. However, everything changed when I finished my military service and joined the heroic military college as a cadet on the 1st of September, 2018. Like every new cadet, I expected to be assigned to a company where I would spend the next 4 years with my fellow cadets. Along with 200 other cadets, we awaited instructions when the senior cadets arrived to divide us. Once assigned to a lodging, I just needed to join a platoon. My platoon sergeant welcomed us with some words, and the last thing he said surprised me. A lot of things happen here, and even if they're not recent, they continue to be part of this college. If you don't believe, it's better to start doing so, and I'm not talking about religious matters, but about believing in what you're seeing. I didn't understand what he meant at the time, but I would discover it later. A few weeks after, the earthquake of the 19th of September occurred, devastating much of the country's center. The college's structure also suffered damage, so we were ordered to evacuate the companies and set up camps on the main parade ground. During those nights, I had my first encounter with second-year cadets. In one of the informal chats, one of them said something that reinforced what the sergeant had mentioned. If you haven't had a paranormal encounter here yet, you'll have at least one. Believe me. Like what, my corporal? I asked with curiosity. A third-year cadet listening to the conversation intervened. If you really want to know, I'll tell you about the Patro Balador and the guard change. He motioned for us to come closer and lowered his voice. Years ago, when the college still had old customs, there was extreme discipline. New cadets were educated with beatings, even without reason. That was the system. He paused. A first-year cadet, a Potro, had only been here a few months. One night, his sergeant checked his boot polish, and his mistake was not polishing his boots. Well, a terrible error. An uncomfortable silence spread among us. His sergeant dragged him to the bathrooms and beat him to death, shouting, "So you polish your boots well, Patro. So you learn to do it right. And if I'm telling you this, it's because there's a chance you'll see him at some point." A chill ran down my spine, but I kept listening. I said, "I don't know, my corporal, I don't doubt your word, but nothing like that has ever happened to me. I've never seen anything strange around here." "Oh, Potro," he replied with a crooked smile. "When it happens, you'll remember me, I promise." I didn't give it much importance, but weeks later, everything changed. By October, we had returned to our routines, cleaning, standing guard, fixing uniforms, and of course, polishing boots. It was almost 11 in the morning on a Thursday. I had stayed up studying for an evaluation, and realizing the time, I went down to iron my uniform. I went to the back of the bathrooms where I usually polished my boots and plugged in my iron to avoid bothering anyone. I put on my headphones and turned on the iron, waiting for it to heat up. Then I noticed something figure moving among the sinks. At first, I thought it was someone wanting to ask me something, but suddenly it was as if the air turned cold, a dry, intense cold that chilled me to the bone. My body reacted before my mind. Something inside me said this wasn't normal. The figure moved to the end of the hallway, and then I saw it clearly. It was a cadet in a white t-shirt, black shorts, barefoot. He sat down with difficulty against the wall as if his body hurt. I noticed his boots were different from ours, which was completely impossible. I don't know how or why, but I dared to speak to him in a low voice. "You didn't fix your boots either." His response chilled me. "If I don't polish well, my corporal will hit me again," he said with a hollow voice, as if we were speaking in an empty room. I had spoken in the same place, and my voice didn't sound like that. A cold sweat ran down my neck as my mind tried to find an explanation. Maybe someone was playing a prank on me, but it felt like something more. I stood up carefully, gathered my things, and when I looked back, it was gone. Only the empty corner remained. I went up to my quarters with my heart pounding in my ears and decided I would polish my boots in the morning when everyone was awake. I put my uniform in the closet and got under the covers, looking toward the hallway. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I heard the same voice again, but this time it came from between my bed and my roommate's. "I do it for you, old one. Rest." The skin on my neck prickled. I tried to turn to see who was there, but I felt an overwhelming, heavy sleepiness, as if I had been suddenly drugged. The last thing I saw was the same figure at the end of the hallway, sitting next to a column, holding a pair of polished boots. My platoon mate, who believed in the paranormal, told me that his shooting instructor, when he was a cadet, had an identical encounter. "The patrol bulidor hasn't left," he said in a low voice. "But tell me something. Do you still not believe in ghosts?" I didn't know how to respond. During my time at the college, I saw the patrol bulidor at least 2 more times, and each time someone saw him, someone would wake up with perfectly polished boots. Even today, I wonder why he did it. I don't know if it was a favor or somehow a warning. At the military college, there are many stories that, although they seem like simple cadet tales, have been experienced by more than one person. One night, while we were talking about these topics, a third-year cadet told me something that stuck with me. The apparitions here at the college are more common than you think. Even the officers know about them, but they can't do anything about it. He explained that one of the most feared guard posts was the cannons, named so because there were 2 obsolete artillery pieces situated at the top of a staircase similar to those at Teotihuacan. For years, there had been a legend of an entity that appeared between 1 and 3 in the morning, always during the 3rd guard shift. It stands next to you and says it's here to relieve you. If you listen and leave your post, you get into trouble. More than one has been arrested for that, they told me. But no one knew who that apparition was or why it did what it did. Days later, a sergeant told me an even more terrifying story. "Hey, son," he said, "haven't you seen anything at the cannons?" "No, my sergeant," I replied, a bit confused. "And have you heard about Levita?" I shook my head. "Well," he rubbed his hands with a certain excitement to start telling me, "I'm going to tell you about Levita and how it almost took me." From here, community, I will narrate his story in the first person, just as he told it to me. The first time I saw something was at the cannons. I was on guard duty, already dying of sleep. It was 1 a.m., and I was struggling to stay awake. Then I don't know how to explain it, but I felt a presence at my back. "Old one, I'm here to relieve you," I heard. I didn't even turn around, I just nodded and left. When I got to the guard room, I found the officers forming the shifts to start the rounds. "Why did you leave your post?" the lieutenant in charge asked me. "I didn't leave, my lieutenant. My senior arrived to relieve me." The lieutenant fell silent and then asked me, "What did he look like?" He had his jacket tucked into his pants and a black patent leather belt. As soon as I finished saying it, I understood. That uniform hadn't been used in many years. "Wow, cadet," said the lieutenant with a mix of nervous laughter and concern. "You've been hit by the Voladora. That guy isn't alive." Even so, they arrested me for a weekend as punishment, but that was nothing compared to what happened to me 2 days later. You see, because of my punishment, I had to stand guard in the hallway above the dining room. It was strange that they sent me there, but I didn't complain. I didn't want to lose another weekend without going out. At 11 at night, I patrolled the area. Everything was calm, at least apparently, because then I saw it, a figure moving in the darkness. The sound of its footsteps echoed in the hallway. It was a cadet holding a rifle in his right hand, just like me, but something was off. His uniform wasn't like mine, it wasn't like ours. He wore a levita, the full-dress uniform of the military college. My stomach nodded. No one wears that uniform unless it's a special ceremony. My mind told me to leave, but my feet carried me toward him. The cadet turned, and I noticed something even worse. The weapon he carried was a wooden musket, a model that hadn't been used in decades. I swallowed hard and tried to stay calm. He kept walking without paying attention to me until he entered the dining room. I ran after him, but when I crossed the door, the place was empty. The dining room at night was a gloomy place. There was almost no light. I felt my body grow cold with fear. Suddenly, the footsteps were heard again, this time coming from below. I leaned over the balcony overlooking the ground floor and saw him. He was walking slowly toward the stairs without looking at me. "Halt!" I shouted, following the guard protocol. "Who goes there?" He didn't respond. He climbed the stairs. I waited for him to reach me to identify him, but he never arrived. His footsteps just stopped abruptly. I waited 1 minute, then 2, then 5. I couldn't take it anymore. I went down the stairs with the flashlight in hand, but there was no one there. I decided to turn around and report it later, but then I heard a deep, guttural laugh right behind me. I turned immediately, and he was less than a meter away. He was tall, wearing the levita, but where his eyes should have been, there were only 2 bright yellow lights. My body froze completely. I had no time to react. His hand grabbed my arm with brutal force. "I've got you now," he said in a cavernous voice. His hand was bony, pale, with long, sharp nails. I felt a pull and then nothing, simply nothing. I woke up in the medical service, with a bandage on my arm and an IV. "What am I doing here, Lieutenant?" I asked weakly. The guard commander looked at me very seriously and told me they found me lying in the dining room, with my mouth open, not breathing, and my eyes open. He told me that when they checked me, my skin was so white that my veins were visible and my lips were purple. Also, my jacket was torn on the left arm, and underneath the fabric, I had 3 bleeding wounds, not 2, 3. From that night on, the guard post was eliminated. No one was allowed to stand guard alone in that area again. When the sergeant finished telling me, he rolled up his left sleeve and showed me 3 scars, 3 marks. After seeing them, I have to be honest, something inside me changed. I didn't know what other things the military college was hiding. I just knew that sooner or later, I would encounter something else. The last story I want to tell you is the most personal experience I had the opportunity or misfortune to live in that military college. Although it was brief, it is surely the one that impacted me the most. It was around 3 a.m., the time when all first-year cadets were required to clean the dormitory. My platoon was assigned to clean the bathroom area and the staircase leading up to the mezzanine where we did tasks. Underneath that staircase was the armory, the storage where weapons were kept. Another comrade and I were in charge of cleaning there, while 2 others did so upstairs. My comrade was sweeping, gathering dust in a corner. I was waiting to be able to mop. When he finished, I approached with my bucket. He was about 5 meters from me, still picking up the trash. I leaned toward the metal mesh that protected the entrance to the armory, and that's when I heard it, a sharp bang. The metallic sound in my ears, as if someone had slammed against the mesh. My first reaction was to think I had caused it with the mop, but no. Seconds later, the bang repeated, and this time it was accompanied by breathing behind me. It felt damp, low, as if someone was very close. My body tensed. I had promised not to look at things I didn't want to see again since my encounter with the Potro Boleador. I no longer doubted that the paranormal existed, but I didn't want to experience it again. Even so, I heard that breathing again, and this time I couldn't help but turn around. What I saw took my breath away. Through the small holes in the mesh, bony fingers slowly emerged. They were long, pale, with skin clinging to the bone, as if they had been mummified. Their thick, worn nails were a color between purple and black. Then I looked up a bit more, and there was a face. I don't know if I would call it human because it was completely white, without features, without lips, without eyes, just two dark spots in their place. But the worst was the smell, a dense, sticky putrefaction, a stench that not even the floor cleaner could mask. Then that thing made a sound, a groan. It wasn't a growl or a voice. It was something similar to when someone tries to clear phlegm from their throat. My skin bristled immediately, and of course, I didn't stay to find out more. I ran out shouting, "Let's go, let's go." I told my comrade, who was still gathering the trash. He didn't even ask what was happening. He dropped everything and ran with me. When we got to our hallway, he asked me what the hell had happened. Still trembling, I told him what I had seen. My platoon commander, who was getting ready at that moment, heard us and approached. His reaction left me cold because he wasn't surprised. "You're not the only one who has seen that," he said seriously. "Every year, at least one or two people see it." He paused and looked at me intently. "And not just in the armory, also in the women's dormitory." I didn't know what to say. These were 3 of my many experiences at the heroic military college. Although I'm no longer there are things you never forget.